So what I enjoy about my Hulk build specifically is that I find it to be kind of down the middle as to what the meta could be for the Hulk. So on one end, the meta could be the light combo finisher build with rock damage, and then on the other end, now that he's gotten kind of buffed more with his heroics, you could do a much more viable high heroic lab than you might have been able to before the most recent update. But I'm kind of going down the middle because that's how I find it to be the most comfortable. So I can do a lot of melee damage with the rock combo, as well as I can still do a good amount of heroic damage because my heroic stat is above 6,000. So you can see my stats right there: 4,000 melee, 1,900 defense, 1,200 range, 6,200 heroic, and you can see the more in-depth stats on the right. So I'll get right into it. So this is a build that perk-wise is focused around the light combo finisher with the small rock combo. So I'll go over each piece individually. So this has a 2-stat might and resilience on it. I might have preferred might and valor for this, but I don't mind resilience on any pieces of my gear whatsoever because I like to have high defense whenever I can. But the main thing is that you want light combo finishers to have vibranium on them. There are other skills, I believe, you can get, other perks you might be able to get. Yeah, like this perk, increase the duration of Bone Shaker by 8.5 seconds. That would be very useful. The only thing about this is that it has Sonic on the light combo finisher, and I would prefer vibranium for this instance. So unfortunately I wasn't able to get blessed with the rolls like that. But the main damage wise, what you're going for is you want to make sure you have vibranium light combo finisher, or you could have Sonic. You could interchange them depending on which way you want to go, but it just depends on what you also have your rocks able to do. So I did get this from the Elite Raid, and now my next piece, the range piece, I also got from the Elite Raid. As you can see, it says all ranged attacks deal sonic damage, so that means the rocks deal sonic damage. And then the perk right there, 20% increased damage while Bone Shaker is active. That is a very good perk to have. It might be better to have the damage buff perk. As you can see, like melee critical attacks have a chance to proc the damage buff. I didn't get blessed with good stats, though. I mean, this one really isn't awful, but see how much it brings down my my heroic stat. That's why I'm not going for it. So I would much rather have this to keep my heroic stat up, and the Bone Shaker perk still increases my attack by a good amount. So I would either look out for the Bone Shaker perk or the melee critical attack perk, but the main thing is that you want to have a battery effect going, so just make sure whatever you have your rocks doing, your light combo finishers are doing the opposite. So my rocks are doing sonic damage, and then the light combo finisher is doing vibranium. So that's the main thing, is you want to have opposites. And like I said, I got this piece from the Elite Raid as well. Now with the defensive piece really is more about the stats just for right now. I'm sure there are better defensive pieces out there with better perks from the Elite Raid, which this is from as well, just in case you couldn't tell, this from the Elite Raid. But I have really not gotten blessed with Hulk like that at all, unfortunately. So, it's just kind of one of those things where it is what it is. The decrease incoming damage by 5% for every active status effect you have on the enemy attacking you, that's not really a bad perk whatsoever. So don't scoff at that perk, because any type of perk that helps your defense, along with any type of resilience you can get, is going to help a great deal. Like the fact that my Hulk has a defense of just under 2,000 is really good to me, because I'm going to be pretty tanky with still doing a decent amount of damage as well. So, but this piece is more or less just for the stats. So you see that it has might, resilience, and valor on it. The triple stats are good for the 4 main pieces of gear, in my opinion. You could opt to do the 2 stats, where, like, for example, if it was might and valor on it, instead of it being in the 80s or 90s, it would shoot above 100, as you can see with the melee stat. The double stats are above 100, which obviously, if you want to specialize in heroic and melee, that would be best to have a higher stat like that. But I don't mind having resilience on it at all. So I do prefer the 3 stats on my pieces most of the time. And then the final piece, this is the piece that's more integral to the rock aspect of the build. As you can see, the main stat is while sending the Sonic Conduit buff to other heroes, melee rock damage is increased by 80%. So this is the thing that you have to keep in mind with this build with the rock damage, right? And this is also the other perk that matters, is the Sonic Conduit perk itself. So if you aren't kind of aware to how the sonic conduit works, so this perk right here explains it. When a hero is in proximity to an enemy with an active sonic status, the sonic conduit buff is sent to all nearby heroes. The triggering hero counts as the sender, and all other heroes are acting as the receivers. So there are different raid perks that give you buffs depending on whether you're the sender or the receiver. So obviously, the melee rock perk is if you're the receiver. So this goes hand in hand with my rocks doing sonic damage, so I can apply the sonic, and then when I'm up in their face, I get the buff right there, and then the battery effect from the light combo finisher. But all these pieces were gotten from the elite raid. So now we'll move on to the minor artifacts. So now with the minor artifacts, so the main thing that you are concerned about with the minor artifacts is that they are both triple stat Valor ISOs, just because that's what's going to increase your heroic stat a great deal. If you did want to focus on the melee rock lab, you could do double melee, but granted these aren't powered to 165, but as you can see, it's not going to upgrade my melee that much. Maybe if these were both 165, it would upgrade my melee to like 5,000 maybe. But it would also bring your heroic down so much that I just don't find it worth it. I much prefer to have a comfortable spread between melee and heroic with Hulk. But like I said, the main thing is the triple Valor stats on both ISOs, and these ISOs specifically, I have multiple of these ISOs on multiple different heroes. So I did kind of quote-unquote cheat for them, if you want to call it that. Basically on PlayStation, I'm not sure if you can do it on PC or Xbox, you can go offline and you can change the date on your PlayStation to different dates, and the faction vendors will sell different things on these different dates. So I believe I got these ISOs on August 26th or 27, 2044 from the Shield faction vendor. And what you can do is after you buy one, you can reset it back to normal day, check the Shield faction vendor to make sure the inventory's good, and then reset the day back to that same date again, and you can buy it again. So that's what I did for these ISOs, as well as some of the other ISOs. This same ISO actually on other heroes as well. But as you can see, it's because of the perk, 13% increased damage from light combo finisher. That really does help the damage for the rock, because obviously you're going to do the battery effect from the light combo finisher. And then the increased heroic regeneration from support also helps as well. But the main thing you do want to look out for if you're unable to get those perks are the triple Valor stats on both of them. And then for the major artifact, I always prefer the Nornstone of Lethal Will, because you can activate it just a flat damage buff to help you against bosses and stuff. So that's what I always go with. And now we'll talk about the skill configurations. So not all of these are going to be a must. I'll specify which ones I think are more important, but there are going to be some of these which are going to be more based off your preference. So for the support, defeat 5 enemies while Bone Shaker is active to extend its duration by 5 seconds. That's really your preference. I just think that's the best one out of the 3. Defeating enemies who are taunted by Bone Shaker causes them to drop a heroic orb. I like to get the heroics back fast, so I would do this more than the other ones, but that's more your personal preference. So irradiated destruction, it leaves the gamma puddle after Bone Shaker. This is what I prefer to do the most, because Hulk has the inherent built-in gamma in his kit, so it helps with battery effect even more if you're able to proc gamma with the vibranium as well. So anything that helps inflict gamma, I put on. So I do this one. And then barbaric charge, stranglehold taunts nearby enemies and instantly overcharges the intrinsic. This one's more for overcharging intrinsic to deal more damage, so that's why I do that one. Thunderclap, I don't know why I spaced on the name for a sec. It increases both damage and stun damage by 25%, but it's a smaller area. This is obviously just the best for bosses, just because it can do more singular a high amount of damage in one hit. And if you activate Rage, you're able to like finagle it to where if you activate Rage as soon as you do it, it actually inflicts Gamma as well, which is in part thanks to the most recent update as well, where they made it so now Rage attacks with the Hulk inflict Gamma, so that really helps the battery effect as well. If you hit this with Gamma activated and they have Vibranium on them, that'll get a hefty battery effect going right there. And then this one, there's a 50% chance defeating enemies with Thunderclap will cause them to drop heroic orbs. Again, I just prefer heroic orbs over everything else. So attacks with held enemies are now protected from interruption. That's your preference. I don't really care about grabbing enemies that much. Increases damage and impact of held enemies by 20%. That's your preference, like I said before. And then performing a takedown forces an enemy to drop a heroic orb. Same thing as before. I just prefer heroic orbs. Large debris does not break apart when thrown, instead rolling on the ground, inflicting damage to every enemy hit by the attack. That's just what I prefer the most for that. Increases range damage by 15%. I'm not entirely sure if this applies to the rock when using it as a melee. You would think not, but obviously the rock is melee, a ranged weapon. So I'm going to say this is personal preference, but you know, it increases range damage even though you're usually not going to want to go for that the most with Hulk, so it just is what it is. And then this increases light and heavy attack damage by 33.3% when using small debris as a melee weapon. This is an absolute must because that's going to have the effect on the combo finisher that you have while holding the the small debris. And just in case for y'all who don't know, the way you activate it is you hold the small debris and then you dodge while holding the small debris, and then you do your normal light combo, and you'll do your light combo while still holding the small debris, so you'll get the damage buffs that you get that come from holding the small rock. So you'll see me demonstrate it in some of the footage that I put at the end of this video. So that one's an absolute must. Increases defensive strength by 15% while rage is active. I like having extra defense on there as well. Increases damage of light and heavy combo finishers by 25% while rage is active. I would say that's an absolute must because that's where your battery effect's going to come by. Increases the maximum amount of intrinsic rage energy by 15%. That's your preference. Increases critical attack chance by 15% while overcharged. I would say do this more than others, but that's really your preference too. Increases all damage while overcharged by 20%. I would say that's an absolute must to get that more damage in. And then reduces the rate at which overcharged energy drains, allowing you to stay overcharged for longer. I would do that, but that's really just your preference again. Now for champion skills, I'm a little bit of a hypocrite sometimes, but I do live by these three columns first. So it would be this one first, and then this one, and then this one in that order. You don't necessarily have to get them to 5. You could get them to maybe 3 or 4, but I would do these 3 first. So this one and this one, these two increase your defense, so that'll help, and then this one increases your overall critical damage, so that's the order that I usually want to do them in. But that wraps up my build for the Hulk. Comment down below how you might build your Hulk, and if you enjoyed this video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content. I will end this video with footage of this build in action, and I appreciate you for watching the video.
Control of the bridge. We can't open it again unless we get it back.